flagship product, Coke. The product was called New Coke. The change marked the first time that Coke had altered its recipe in 99 years, and according to Coke, it, quote, spawned consumer angst the likes of which no business has ever seen. Now, Coke is resurrecting the formula following a recent partnership with Netflix's series Stranger Things.
Which at least that makes sense.
A little bit, yeah, right. It's contextually appropriate, right?
Right.
And Stranger Things, of course, is the science fiction horror series that takes place in the mid-'80s. A limited supply of the beverage will be available as part of a promotional campaign for the series, and new Coke is going to be featured in episodes. Coke is calling it a cultural innovation and saying that, hey, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
True.
And they,
Yes.
it's going to be available in limited supplies through the summer. All right, here's my question: New Coke again, guys? Yeah or nah?
No, absolutely no.
No. Okay, and I'm going to answer. This completely makes us old because I'm going to tell you, I had to take maybe 30 minutes to an hour to explain to my children what New Coke was and what this meant, because they were like, well, wasn't it just called New Coke when it came out? And then you had, because you know how now there's all these different flavors of beverages?
Yes.
And I'm like, no, we just had like Coke. And then what they did is they took Coke away, and then they just changed the flavor.
And we're like, no.
We only had this Coke.
That sounds like a really hard conversation, Judy.
And then they were like,
that was worse than the puberty talk.
There was no other Coke. And then we went down this YouTube wormhole.
Because there are so many Cokes now. There's Coke with lime. There's Coke with names on it. There's
so many commercials because the marketing of this went so bad. So they had to keep telling people. And then I was trying to explain to them. So then what they had to do, and this is how we started getting different flavors of Cokes. And it really is. Because I said then what they had to do, because people were rioting in the streets. I'm like, the year is 1983. There's only one Coke. It's New Coke. But they didn't call it New Coke. They just called it Coke.
They just pulled the Coke rug out from under
What happened is people had a fit. So then they just have Coke. And then they decide to bring back Coca-Cola Classic.
Right.
So Coca-Cola, I could have had like a board with like red strings.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, and then Coca-Cola Classic is called Coca-Cola Classic. But New Coke isn't New Coke. It's just Coke. Okay. It's just Coke. But then people started calling it New Coke. And then eventually what happens is, follow me here. They get rid of New Coke. And Coca-Cola Classic, again, becomes Coke.
This is the Coke Handmaid's Tale. It's just so disturbing to me.
And they're like, they're just staring at me. They don't understand it. They're like, so there was no New Coke? I'm like, people just called it New Coke. It was never New Coke. There is no New Coke.
I
don't think they still understand it.
I hate that
we're
Coke
old
today is taking away the innocence of children the way they took ours away in 1985.
So they can't bring back New Coke because there never was a New Coke.
Awful.
I think this. One, Can
you imagine? I was like a crazy person. They walked away from me. They're like, Mom, we don't care anymore.
I hate that Coke did that to you, Judy.
Yeah, it really did cause just strife and conflict in your household.
But do you understand how complicated this is?
We
got to make a documentary. Where's the Netflix documentary?
You made like a kill wall, like Homeland.
I'm like, first of all,
what
second
I
of all,
think,
and then this commercial. But wait,
you know what? That can be part of the behind Stranger Things, like the background, the viewing party of Stranger Things, like the even Stranger Things New Coke edition. Because I am not a big soda drinker, but I am a fan of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate the fact that when I go to the convenience store, there are so many varieties of the Coca-Cola. I'm like, blood orange, really? We went there, huh? Did we? And I just don't know what I would do with the blood orange soda, but it has been enough to pique my curiosity. So I will probably, just because I don't remember caring that because I grew up in a Pepsi house. Oh my God, more shocking. So we missed the whole, drama of Coca-Cola because my mom does not drink Coke. So I got to miss
my
all of
parents
that
are
chaos.
English. We didn't drink any of it.
They're like, where's the Fanta?
Perrier. I'm still on sparkling water. We were buying Perrier at my house.
Apparently, sorry to talk over you, Shannon.
No.
Apparently, our generation, Gen X, is very susceptible to nostalgia marketing, which is why Stranger Things is doing well. equally interesting to me, apparently, is that apparently Gen Z, our children, they love nostalgia marketing, but they're not tied to a particular era in time when they create looks. Like they'll pick something from the 80s and something from the 90s and something from now and combine it into one look.
Okay.
So they're samplers.
So they will be all over
Maybe
new Coke.
They might like the blood orange Coke.
I'm curious to see
Well,
what
they
do.
love it, but they don't like it when you tell them that there was no new Coke. It was just Coke. Don't tell them that. They don't want to know.
Okay,
Hide
so we'll
that
have
from
to.
them. Just
It's a
let
painful
them know
truth, Judy.
that when it came out, it was just called New Coke, and we had old Coke, and there was always a new Coke.
Sam, I don't remember what the box, the marketing, the packaging is going to look like for the new Coke, because they can't call it new Coke. Because Judy's right, it didn't say new Coke on the can at the time. So what are they? How am I going to differentiate between the Coke and then the special edition Coke?
Stranger Things. It's going to be Coke will be in Stranger Things themed pop-up vending machines.
Oh, so we just know that one will have the different formula.
I believe that's how it's going to look.
Ah, okay. We will
It's
keep
gonna
an
be
eye out.
stranger.
We probably should at least do some sort of taste test then once it comes out. So we'll remember that. So we'll put that on there. And now, ladies, I am very excited. We have a brand new benchmark. A brand new enthusiastic benchmark here on the Enthusiastic Woman podcast. Time for Don't Crime. Don't Crime here on the Enthusiastic Woman podcast. I'm going to kick it off. I have a story here, and I'm very curious to see what you guys think about this one. So, we have, all of us ladies in this room have been on an airplane before, on a commercial flight, right? Okay, so Delta did something that I find very odd. And so what Delta did is Delta had and this all came out from a Delta employee in the operations center, and what it sounds like is that there was a plane that had some difficulties, some engine difficulties that they were working on. And it was getting to the point that this particular maintenance problem had gone on long enough that the flight attendants and the staff could technically have clocked out. And because of the way things work, they cannot be forced to continue and take this overtime. So since they were worried that they would lose their crew and therefore have to cancel the flight, someone from the operations center sent a directive to the gate agent that told them, do not open the doors to the plane, because they wanted to make sure that the flight attendants stayed on board. So that they couldn't go home, and then they'd have to sit there and cancel the flight until they had time to get another crew. So
That's what you want in a flight attendant.
exactly, a crabby, trapped flight attendant. So they kept
And
him
then
on.
and then they couldn't pay him.
Well, they still were going to pay him, but the whole point is that what they would have had to do is cancel the whole flight. And then decide what all the repercussions that they had about all the passengers, what they were going to do about that. So instead, they decided to trap them on the plane and force them to continue working beyond what they would have worked and give them no choice. So there are recorded communications between the operations center and the gate using code words saying, don't open the door. Don't let the staff off. Don't open the door.
Wow.
I think, and there haven't been any charges pressed or anything, and they don't have a union, these particular flight attendants or anything, but I think that's kidnapping.
It looks and sounds terrible. Here's the weird thing to me. Delta, for a number of years, has been engaged in a very legitimate, very sincere effort to improve their employer brand.
Right.
Their employees love them. They have, of all the airlines, in fact, they have like a 2% employee turnover rate. They give them bonuses that are 14% of their bonus pay. They do give them time off for community service. They do unconscious bias and diversity training. Delta employees love working for that airline. So this is completely not in alignment with that. So in my mind, it's an unfortunate thing, but maybe a one-off thing.
Right.
It's so not Delta.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's like, if you were offering, I know a couple of flight attendants, and if you offer them the opportunity to continue working and you know that they're going to get overtime for it, I think that is a choice that a lot of people would decide to do. I mean, even if you look at it from a perspective as a passenger, I've been one of those people where they said, hey, we'll give you whatever bonus this is, $300, $500, if you'll just sit around in the airport for the extra hours. So I am all for paying people what they are worth. That is where I find it very interesting, based on everything you said, Samantha, that the fact that they were like, no, let's default to trapping them on this plane
weird,
versus just presenting them with the option to stay. Seems so bizarre. And again, part of what we're saying in this whole don't crime segment is there seems so many other options that are so much easier than the scheme of just keep them on the plane. Copy. You know, kind of thing.
Lock the doors.
So
don't let them out.
A deadhead is when a flight attendant or pilot flies a leg as a passenger and gets paid, but isn't working.
Right.
Yikes.
They treat them pretty well.
I just think it's interesting that you can tell, like,
So
when you
you
listen
can
to the
fly
correspondent.
as a passenger on a plane, but be the pilot.
Yes. But there is also
another
pilot flying the plane.
Right. I'm confused with
No,
your question.
no, because they're not supposed to be working anymore. Because I think there's like rules around how many hours they can work.
Right.
True. But there is
So
never
they just
not a
book
pilot
them
on the
as a
plane.
pilot. So they're not technically supposed to be working. So they book them as a pilot, as a passenger, and then they're the pilot, and they're paid.
No.
They
They fly, but they are not at the controls of the plane.
Correct.
Why would they do that?
Because they need to go back to wherever they started.
Oh.
They don't want to just stay at the destination.
I
Sometimes
get
they
it.
have
I
to go
get it.
back.
I get it.
You know, and a lot of times, like, there's been stories before where those people have, kicked other passengers off the flight, and they had to change a lot of the
Can't
rules
they
because
just
of that.
stay overnight in a hotel? Isn't that part of the gig?
Not
I
always.
think they
I think
can sometimes.
sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and they don't make recommendations for that, especially because that's part of where this whole snowball effect started, is because they were having maintenance issues. So the flight was supposed to be kind of a turnaround. They should have come back. They ended up delayed by 3 hours. So it was just enough to kick everybody into this overtime scenario, and not only overtime, into a scenario that was outside of what they could consider mandatory overtime. They could have just said, I want to stay here. I want to go to bed.
Airline employee logistics is fascinating.
Yes.
I'll just make up a couple locations, but sometimes it could be that, say, a flight attendant lives in Phoenix, right? But the route that they're on most commonly is like Seattle to Minneapolis. So they hop on a plane as a passenger of their airline, fly up to Seattle, get on the plane where they're working, do their route for however long that is, and then get back on another plane and fly back home. So they sort of commute on the airline.
Right.
I mean, I don't know any people really who do it, but I've met people who have done this job, being a flight attendant or what. And people who do it tend to love it.
Yeah, I have a friend. He's been with the airline for 20 years.
And he just loves it.
Yes. He's worked with them. He's one of their influencer. He does all kinds of stuff. And it really, and he does one of the international routes. So he does a lot of, it really has opened up some opportunities for him and his husband. He does love it. And so that's, again, it goes back to, why bother to crime in this way and trap these people?
Why lock them in a can?
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I've learned something.
Maybe times are a-changing. Maybe
Something bad's going on.
My goodness.
Well, we always encourage you to be part of this Enthusiastic Woman community, so you can join us on our Enthusiastic Woman Facebook page and at enthusiasticwoman.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram as @iBirthSuccess, and you can email the show. It's ibirthsuccess@gmail.com. I think that was a fun episode. I'm glad that we get to talk about some things and to maybe give some people some advice on why they shouldn't crime, right, ladies?
Amen.
All
Yeah.
right. We will see everybody next time. And I'd like to remind you, when you're feeling less than enthusiastic, remind yourself, I birth success.